Hey, what's up everyone, it's Duskmos, and today I'm here with the Pedal Brainz Left Brain CV. Let's check it out. This micro-sized little box of wonder is a psychedelic CV controller that works based on light patterns that flash with LEDs behind these three knobs that are then reacting with photoreceptors that then will translate those light patterns into control voltage that you can then use to control anything that can receive CV. So I think what serves us best probably is just to get it hooked up and see what this thing can do. So there we go. So you can see there's no modulation going on. There's no, LFO or anything going to frequency cutoff. But now we're going to change that. So we take our CV cable, look into the filter control, and now you can see not much is happening because I have it set into kind of like a middle range here. And now you can really hear and see how this is controlling this knob. So it's kind of the same thing as like turning it up and down like this really fast. And that's what's cool about CV and modulation sources, is it basically turns knobs for you. You can see the rate is tied to the light here, so it's reading the light on a photoreceptor inside this little box. And then an Arduino is controlling the light patterns and colors that the photoreceptor is reacting to. So we can change things like rate. You can see it's really flashing fast here. And hopefully the camera's picking it up. Frame rates and all that. You can really hear it dive bombing. And so different controls in these different modes will control the response. You'll see that one's interesting. It just, yeah, it's going from passing a signal to not. In this case, you can hear it, so turn it up a little bit. Very, very low passing. All right, now let's get it set up with something a little bit more interesting. Okay, so as you can see, now I'm back with the Left Brain CV, and I've added the Moog Subharmonicon, which is a semi-modular analog polyrhythmic synthesizer. That's a mouthful. And it's a really quirky, weird little synth, and I've always wanted to check one out, and I've actually borrowed this one. So it's not mine. It's probably the only video this is going to show up in, but I thought it would be cool, and it fits because there's a lot of CV action going on this side of the synth. So I thought it would be perfect to pair up with the Left Brain CV. We're just going to experiment, but I'll try to make it clear what's happening every time that something changes so you know what the left brain is doing. Okay, so I'm going to start with the clean pattern, which sounds like this. And by clean, I guess I mean unmodulated. That's what we're working with. So now I'm going to take the left brain, and I'm going to plug in the CV control into the cutoff of the filter. So we'll kind of have a little bit of a, I don't know, it's like a callback to the first setup here, so we can do that, as you can see. as it goes dark, the filter cuts out. And the different colors of lights will change the value along the way. And again, like on my first example, you can manually control this. Bring it down even more. And there's interactivity with the knob as well. So like, if I have it all the way cut off, because this is voltage going positive and negative, we can fully mute it or reintroduce or open the cutoff window. If that makes sense. I'm kind of playing with the range in essence. So we'll change to a different pattern here, or a light pattern on the left Brainz CV. This one's a little bit more of a gentle. Oh, there you go, a little bit of extreme. A really cool way to introduce some randomized modulation. Okay, now to get extra weird, taking out the filter cutoff, we'll open up a little bit on the synth, but we'll go into the actual VCO2 pitch control. I went VCO2 first because it's sort of obviously the secondary voice here. So you can hear VCO1 stays persistent, but you have this background pitch getting all weird because of the CV. Let's switch it now to VCO1. And you're getting these crazy experimental pitch bends. That's cool, so you can see we got a pretty steady pattern going. But now I can actually plug into rhythm 1, 2, 3, or 4. And now we're controlling the rhythm. You kind of see that reflected in these step lights here. So the CV is actually varying the speed as it cycles through, which is pretty interesting. And what else is interesting is because there's two CV outs, I'll plug in a second one, and we'll go ahead and freak out this VCO2. Try a different preset here. So that's a slower fade in and out. I'm going to leave the rhythm where we have it set, so that'll stay steady now that I've removed that. But I'll go into the cutoff. cool because I might not have thought to change the pitch and the cutoff manually on the Subharmonicon to get this sort of bassy filtered pattern here, but like I stumbled into it because of this. I think that's one of the strongest suits of why having a funky little device like this around is a really cool and inspiring thing. Okay, so in this third and final setup, I've got the Subharmonicon back, but I've also introduced the Mood Mark II from Chase Bliss, and that's going to be adding the effect layer to the Subharmonicon, but I'm going to be controlling it over the CV input with the left brain CV. So this is just the Subharmonicon clean. We'll go ahead and introduce the Mood. Let's get the long tail reverb on there. Slowing the clock speed down. Now I'm going to hook in the CV control, but I don't have it set to anything. You have to go on the back of the Chase Bliss stuff to the dip switches, but I'm going to make this control the clock speed. Let's see. Oh, I got two of them there. It's hard to do with big fingers. Okay, so now you can see it's set to clock. Maybe you can see that, maybe you can't. So now let's reactivate the Mood. So you can hear when these lights dim, it was slowing the clock speed. Let's try a different pattern here. Tweak this one. There we go. But one thing to note that I didn't is the Chase Bliss stuff only wants positive voltage, so I switched it from the negative and positive to just a positive. It's going from 0 to 5 volts. And I also inverted the polarity because it in standard mode, it made it so that down was like the fully opened knob and then up was closed, so I wanted it to perform the opposite. So it's cool flexibility. So now I'm going to switch the mode to delay. And that's a pretty wild response. This mode's a bit more subtle. Let's go back to reverb. can also, again, utilize the second output, and actually we'll make it the cutoff on the Subharmonicon. Now we're cooking. Oh, it's reversed now, so means it's the right polarity for expression or the voltage direction on the Moog, but inverse for the sub. That's funny. And that's just a big old crazy, interesting, modulated control with both these devices, courtesy of the pedal Brainz left Brainz CV. Just a little turn of the knob, you're getting very different responses. So what are my final thoughts on the left Brainz CV from Pedal Brainz? Well, I think it's a really inspiring little box. I mean, this little thing with its dual CV outputs controlling pitch and cutoff and even like the rate on the Subharmonicon of the rhythms, really just wild and interesting. And it's cool that it's as flexible as it is with the, I guess, up the two outputs, but then also being able to use it as just normal expression or with the light control. Obviously going positive and negative on the voltage range makes it, universal for a lot more pieces of gear. And inverted or standard mode and scale, and everything about this is just a really interesting little mod box that is kind of hard to explain. I mean, when you think about the lights being the source of the modulation, that's just so non-standard that it's really kind of hard to get across what's going on. But I think it's a unique thing. It's sort of like, I don't know, it kind of puts me in the world of like the D-beam of the Roland days, if you remember those. Like back in the 90s, that was on a lot of the, in early 2000s, I guess, a lot of the Roland boxes like MC 808 and those groove boxes and stuff. Kind of a cool thing. Also, what reminds me a little bit of like that, I think it was Alesis made that like kind of orb thing that was also an effect box that you would hover over like air effects or something. I don't remember if that's what it was called, but I do remember being a kid and playing with that stuff in Guitar Center and just my mind being blown at the landscape of the time. And this kind of takes me back to those days. Like, it just is weird and funky and playful. And like I said, it's inspirational. Like, it definitely kind of opens up the door to some more creative outputs. And I think using it in like a modular rack, like I know, you can CV control like sample playback and start positions and all that. And I think that would be really interesting to tweak with this. And yeah, I don't have Euro rack, so I'm not too ready to demo something like that in that kind of world, in that context. But between the pedals and synths and stuff, like I got that covered. And I think that alone is a lot of fun and definitely would be enough to warrant checking one of these out. So yeah, definitely give it a look if you're interested in doing what this thing can do. And I really appreciate Brainz for sending this out for me to demo on the channel. I think it's a really cool device, and I don't know, I think it's just, like I said, one of the most unique and interesting and kind of inspiring little boxes that I've had the pleasure of checking out on the channel. And I can see it being kind of like a secret weapon for people, because you see this on somebody's rig and you're like, what is that little thing doing? So anyway, yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.